Okay, it's recording now.
Cool.
Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna try and click back and forth as to whoever's talking. Uh, but well, to explain to everybody who's watching this, we don't know anything about technology, and the windows are not resizing themselves properly, and we had to use Google Hangouts because Zoom was not working, YouTube Live wasn't working, so we're here.
Yes, but both of our individuated Zoom accounts would not allow the audio to work effectively. So yes,
Right.
there's the technological gremlins that are trying to run on their wheels and prevent us from connecting. But we are undaunted, so we are still having our conversation anyway through
Yes.
this different platform. So that's why it might look a little bit different than we had intended. So don't worry about it.
Yep. It's good.
Good, Gary. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's been a
Happy New
while.
Year. It has been a while.
What's been happening? What's been happening in Aurora land?
I am just noticing that it feels like I am at a party where everyone's tripping. Like some people have taken like doses of some hallucinogenic, and I feel like I'm the only person that is, grounded and sane and able to see what's going on. And I'm trying to say to people like, "Hey, blah 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 is going on," and they're either like fearful of me, distracted by something shiny, totally seeing the world from a different perspective. I'm just like, okay, like this is what's going on. And I'm also, I'm seeing anomalies that are being reported widely, like that actually make the news. I'm hearing firsthand reports of people that are experiencing personal anomalies. I'm having personal anomalies in my own life, and I think this morning in our challenge with even connecting technologically on here gets another check mark of more personal anomalies that are going on. So
Yeah.
yes, we are in a realm that feels like completely unsolid to me. That it feels completely fluid and malleable, and it's requiring great levels of like mental focus. It
Mm-hmm.
almost feels to me like if you're in space, you're in zero gravity, and you have a little tool, and the tool's going to float away from you unless you specifically grasp onto it or place it someplace. I feel like that was reality right now. I feel like if I didn't specifically place things and hold on to them with my mind, that they are likely to float away or transform or do something strange.
Yeah. Uh, I feel the same way, and even with the more regular people, seem to be noticing things, and even the like clouds we've had
Yeah.
around. I take pictures of all of them and stuff, but the clouds are just ridiculously different and crazy. Did you see the picture I posted of the zigzag ones on
No, I
Facebook?
did not. I did not see the zigzag clouds, but I have noticed the clouds. I know what you're talking about.
It was the entire sky. My sister took a picture of it, and it was zigzag like this, and then another zigzag underneath it, and it was like just a blanket of the entire sky. Perfect patterning. I'd never seen anything like it ever.
You know what? I see comments that people make that might not even be completely well informed or free to speak their mind. Like there's a lot of self censorship that goes on with people in social conversations where they're afraid to use certain words for fear of being labeled like insane or whatever. And many people say like the sky today looks like something out of a science fiction movie. It looks like so unnatural. It looks like an alien landscape. Like people are using language that is like they know the truth, they are somewhat in denial, they're not wanting to recognize like this is evidence of planetary invasion, this is what's going on, this is not terrestrial technology that is being deployed making these artificial things, and very few people have the emotional wherewithal to be like, yep, that's a bunch of fake planes, holographic planes, not non-terrestrial technology being deployed. And some people like on the journey towards noticing that that's disturbances are happening, they become very depressed
Mm-hmm.
because it can give people a feeling of hopelessness or powerlessness, because it seems like, oh, there's this giant vast thing and it's so horrible. And I mean, it is so horrible, but it's not insurmountable. So whenever we talk about these things, I never bring up lots and lots of problems without also bringing up solutions and really affirming. As I'm saying, like I think everybody is tripping. Here's what I really think is happening. We're transiting through larger areas of space. Like we don't just run around in the same circles like hamsters on a hamster wheel in the cosmos. We
Yeah.
move through different areas of the entirety of the cosmos, like relative to the galactic central sun. And as it's just like seasons on Earth, that there are wintertime seasons where it doesn't matter if you plant a seed in the wintertime, like it doesn't matter how good you are of a gardener, it's not going to sprout. It's not going to become alive and part of reality. And then if you wait until spring, same exact seed, but timing is everything, then the circumstances are optimal for reality creation. It's the same thing. There are seasons of where we are moving through, like cosmos, interstellar space, time field, like larger cycles. And we are now entering into one of these larger cycles of fertility and manifestation where we haven't had these opportunities before. And also, it means that what is inside of us is what we are fertilizing in the garden. Like, what is the potential inside of your seed is what is going to be planted and then manifest. So if people have psychotic delusions or PTSD or whatever is inside of them, like, those seeds are sprouting. And there's also, like, I think we should give a shout out to 5G, because there's a lot of disturbance that is happening through technological conveyances. Like, there's cosmic rays, or let's call them naturally occurring frequencies.
Yeah.
Sorry, my words aren't working. I'll try it again. You know what I'm talking about. Things that are not being emitted by an apparatus, that are
right.
Evidenced at large. And then there are things that are being emitted by Earth's technology right now that are definitely affecting human consciousness. And I even see that there's this interplay between these two things. And it's a battle or a conflict even within our own bodies, between naturally occurring biological neurology and architecture and self-assembling nanotechnology wetware, things that we don't have naturally inside of our body. So we're going through personal struggle, planetary struggle, cosmic level struggle, and all of this is to see what characteristics and qualities and ideas for the future are going to be planted in these seeds that we plant right now. For anybody who thinks that their life doesn't matter, oh, my life is so stupid and I just ride my bike to my job every day and I'm so dumb. No, you're not so dumb. The seeds that are in your mind right now, as we move through this fertile time of the time field, this season, get planted and sprout in the future. So if you're busy for those thoughts are being planted. That's right. Being planted in the future. So we all need to get super clean inside. When I say clean, I don't mean like anybody's a sinner. I'm not on that type of a track at all. I'm more talking about being really focused. Like, I'm really focused when I make my art projects, that I know exactly where I want to put red. I know exactly where I want to put green. I'm not like Jackson Pollock. I don't drip it all over the place. Like, I do things really specifically. So we have to get really specific about what do we want. You do it with your life individually. So I know also a lot of people are in, let's say, crisis opportunity, like these moments in their life when there's like, okay, you might have lost your job or your living situation is about to dry up, where it's like, you are in crisis, but it also means that in this moment, something wonderful can happen. So it's not time to panic. It's not like, oh my God, the world is going to end. It's more like, wow, you now have a paintbrush with your mind that you can use to paint reality. What reality do you want to paint? So I encourage everyone to plant those seeds, paint the reality that you wish to experience. And also, I got to say this, at this point, we were supposed to, according to plans, have already done all of like the cleanup. Like, there's a lot of malevolent monsters on the planet right now. There's murderers and pedophiles and people from part of the formerly entrenched power structure that they are pathogenic infections. They're pathogens. They're not supposed to be here. They're like viruses. And at this point, we were supposed to have already purged them from the system, so that as we move into this time of creation, like creativity and joy and everything, you don't have to be thinking about all that crap. You don't have to be thinking right. about and processing literally, turds and things that have gone on in the past. I mean, haven't had that opportunity. They've been dragging their feet intentionally with the idea like, oh, so then we're going to have turds as part of the new seeds of the future that we're going to plant. No. So don't be concerned about that. All of this is to say it happens anyway. It happens inevitably. So it's like saying, if you think you got to have all of the dishes perfectly clean in the kitchen and the floor completely spick and span before you're finally allowed to like metamorphosize and transform into your highest potential life form, like, no, you can do it even if there's dirty dishes in the sink. You can do it if trash is taken out.
That's like OCD. That's like, someone that can go outside of their own bedroom until they've turned the doorknob so many times and arranged all the everything perfectly, but then they're too tired by the time that they've done all that, right?
I can totally relate to that. I used to have way more of those compulsions, and there's a really good book. Sometimes we have overlapping areas of interest. That's called "Children of the Mind of Christ" from Orson Scott Card. And like, I'm not so much of a lover of everything he writes. You know, not an endorsement of him as a person. That particular book really spoke to me. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
What's it called again?
Children of the Mind of Christ. There's a particular planetary system where the ruling class, the elite people on that planet, have a particular genetic mutation. They're called the God Spoken. And they are the ones that can telepathically tune into this particular, you know, species of overlords. And what they did was, for the God Spoken to not be too uppity, they also programmed in a devastating genetic mutation where they're totally OCD. And if a voice in their head tells them, you need to touch the doorknob, 26,000 times before you're allowed to do blah, 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 then they'll do it. And so a lot of them spend hours of their day on these like tasks or punishments where they have to like look at the grain on a piece of wood on the floor perfectly, or do any of these things, and they try to do it so that it's not like hurting their bodies, because they're like, oh yeah, like that guy washed all his skin off his hands, like no, we can't have that. So they figure out these kind of like torments and tasks that are specifically they're like the Harrison Bergeron things to keep them from rising too high. So I'm not going to spoil it, but at the end of the situation, things get resolved and those people get their shackles removed. So yes, it's very much like that. That's what, the idea. Oh, before you're allowed to be free, you have to do all these blah, blah, blah meaningless tasks. And no, we don't have to do that. So I want to affirm and assure everyone, like, it's really time. Because I talk about this a lot, and I'm not just shining people on. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh yes, everybody, it's going to be so great, just a few more days. Like, no, it's really time. Yeah, because we get that a lot, where it's like, yep. Oh, it's always in the new age, they're always like, oh, any day now, like, the event, the thing is gonna happen. And meanwhile, like, everyone is trying to still pay their bills and avoid vaccinations and try to stay alive in a totally toxic, environment and society. And it's like, no, anything benevolent that is assisting us knows that this needs to happen instantaneously, that we can't wait any longer, or going at a slow pace does not help. Going slower does not make this more comfortable. You're totally, I can tell, stroking your beard in agony. You're like, yes, I agree.
No, it's not agony. This is fun.
Good.
I like stroking the beard.
Good.
What about all of this stuff? I don't really follow what happens out there very much. But as far as all of the baddies getting, taken to task, is that not happening at all, or is it just looking like it's happening? What's the situation?
Yeah, here's what I think is going on. I think that over the past 2 years, it has become abundantly clear to anybody who's informed and not totally mind-controlled that the law enforcement agencies and law creation agencies are profoundly corrupt, and that they cannot police and prosecute themselves. That the government is not a self-cleansing mechanism. This is not, so the agencies I'm referring to, FBI, completely corrupt, Department of Justice, completely corrupt, and the two of them are not going to investigate one another. So and that's from my like perspective. I'm not saying like because I read it in an article. So for anybody out there who is saying there are white hats in the FBI who are ready to jump on their steeds and ride up to save us, like, I think you have to let go of that as a very ungrounded, false expectation. The people, from my understanding, that are in the government are there for their own self-interests. They want to protect their jobs. They want to protect the system. They do not want to do anything that will rock the boat or destroy the status quo. So, and I can say that criticism of many beings, including beings who are outside of the system, who have the information that would pull the plug on everything, and they haven't done it. And I'm speaking right now about Kim.com. He's a huge system outsider, no pun intended, who literally has the information from his mega upload servers that would destroy international government. Not only the corruption of the United States government, I'm pointing to me because I'm in the United States, so our government completely corrupt, but also Australia and Great Britain and several of our supposed allies in Europe. And it's basically going to cause a huge teeter-tottering power shift of the entire international government. And that's just based on surveillance. That's not even based on the esoteric information of what is being euphemistically called human trafficking. But really, this is about the buying and selling of humans, human energy, human body parts, human sexuality. And it is from off-world beings. It is not being sold to other humans. That's the big takeaway. So there's this connective integument that's been fabricated, the idea or the concept of a physical substance called adrenochrome. The ritual abuse exists and is real, and the vampiric feeding of energy is real, but the adrenochrome is an allegory that has now been taken as a literalism. So if you hear that there are shipments of adrenochrome that have been stopped at the border, like 10,000 pounds of it, that is not truthful. You need to understand the beings who have invaded this planet are beings of pure frequency. Wait, let me play something on the piano. Can you hear that? Those are notes. They're not a physical thing. That is not a physical thing. That is a vibration. It's music. It's something that is, you can have a melody, you can have a vibration through a medium, but the melody itself is non-physical. That's what these invaders of consciousness are like. And they don't feed off of a physical food, and they don't require a physical syringe to inject something and make something happen. Here, let me put my screen down so that it's not distracting to you. Yeah, so the idea of adrenochrome has been seeded into the mind of everyone in order to give people who can't understand frequency drugs. Like, humans right now are so based in objective materialism, they can only think a person can change their mind if you get an injection from a syringe. They can't imagine a person can change their mind if I zap you with the frequency ray gun. That's not this level of, but that is something that is a real extraterrestrial level of technology. And it's also something that is part of Earth's human ancient culture that was actually used for healing. Like, zap, now you're healed, I make you feel better. Instead of I cut you open with a knife and make you feel better. Like that, that you want to talk barbarity, oh my goodness, I'm getting into it. The medicine of this time and place is definitely the medicine of barbarianism. Like, it's terrible. If you have a problem and you go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh yes, you have a problem in your knee, like, we'll be sure to cut it open. And problems as we fix, probably no, that's not the way it would be done. So the whole point is the beings that are more sophisticated than the beings that are presently on Earth, they use frequency. They're invisible. They themselves are made of frequency. They eat frequency. And the buying and selling, the barter and trade that's been going on has been a barter and trade of consciousness, of frequency, not of physical substances. So yes, of course, there is actual organ harvesting. There's actual hearts and kidneys that are being bought and sold. That is different than what I'm talking about, where the fear and the terror that is released from the victim is a non-physical melody that these beings eat, and that is what has run our entire international economy. And now that might just be too big of a pill for people to swallow, so it's easier for them to think, oh, they inject something into them, that's what Hollywood stars do, and they think it's a physical substance. So everybody like, look, I don't condescend to people. I actually give people the benefit of the doubt that you're intelligent enough to understand, no, it's an invisible, non-physical substance that people are getting high off of. So there's not a truckload of it. And it's a real thing that's actually being trafficked. So that whole thing, Kim.com has the information. Our entire government participates. Everyone in Congress. If you're thinking Congress is going to get a committee together and they're going to investigate all of this, stop it now. I have to tell you, stop it now. And the whole Q phenomenon, which I think might have started out as an actual insider, as an actual truth teller, has been completely co-opted. And completely is now a source of all disinformation. If people are still they're clinging to their pacifier, being like, mommy and daddy told me it's going to be okay because they read it in Q. The funniest thing for me in the whole entire world was when Q was like, no, JFK Jr. is not alive, living on an island with Lady Diana. Like, I can't, like, this is what I mean when I say that people are literally tripping. Everyone is so malleable and hypnotically suggestible that it is as if you have taken magic mushrooms or LSD or some other molecule that makes people extremely suggestible. And military intelligence knows about this. That's what MK Ultra is all about. It's about giving people molecules that then make them suggestible to whatever programming or story you tell to them. So if you make people super suggestible through non-physical means, like through 5G, can we talk about this? 5G, some guy in Davis, California, which is right next to Sacramento. Sacramento just turned on 5G.
It's right next to us too, actually. We're in Vallejo. We're like an hour south.
try to stay safe and sane, Gary, because I know that you're in that zone, and I know that you also, whatever, interact in human society way more than I do. Like, you swim around in the soup. I'm not in the soup that much. Yeah. Oh my God, this guy, he said his cell phone was sending him sonic waves, and that he decided he needed to shoot a police officer as a result, and that he left a suicide note and he killed himself, or they found himself dead, or they suicided him. Whatever. This is the whole point. 5G is making people begin to act in totally psychotic ways. And so, yes, it is very... it's like every cautionary science fiction movie that's ever been made ever. Everything from watch out, don't trust your government, don't trust alien invaders are here but you can't actually see them, machines and technology are taking over, and also like you're the last seen person on Earth. That's it. We're living this. This is not fiction. This is reality. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. I should let you talk.
No, it's good. I'm actually coming off of a 3-day water fast, so I was like sleeping for a couple hours before, so I'm okay to let you talk more.
What's the inspiration behind your fast? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I just saw a thing, this Sadhguru guy was talking about fasting, and I was just like, oh, I want to fast. I just do things very randomly and spontaneously. But I like switching it up and seeing how it affects my system and seeing how it affects my thoughts and whatnot.
Because I do know some people that are transitioning into either totally sun gazing or totally breatharian, not traditional food and water. And so it was interesting when I saw you saying that you felt called to do a fast, like on that whole topic. I would say to everybody, do what your own body says is right for you. So like if you want to go become a raw fruitarian, or if you want to do a water fast, or if you want to eat nothing but pure sunlight, like I think we're in that fertile area of the time zone where our bodies can do things that would formerly have been considered not possible. So
yeah. Like it was different this time. I've done a juice fast. I only did 3 days, but I didn't feel any hunger the entire 3 days. Because, like, I've already been doing the sort of breatharian type lifestyle where I don't eat until maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then I only have one meal. And I'm totally fine. I have plenty of energy, and doing the breath work is like doing sun gazing or whatever. Because it's like a Reiki technique. You're imagining bringing in the light, and it's feeding your body, right? I wanted to ask you, as far as this, these entities, right? These energy-eating entities, and how regular humans are corrupted via this thing. How do you... There's not actual communication, right? Where this light, this energy-eating thing is like, hello, Mr. President, like, you're gonna do this now. It's not like that, right? Like, it's just they feel a certain way, but they don't know exactly why, but it induces them to certain types of action, right?
Yeah, so I think that it comes in through different programmed vulnerabilities in the human software code, even though I'm really clear when I talk to everyone, like, I'm not a transhumanist. My little dog is coming over here, so let me just move this chair so that she can jump up more easily. There you go. You jump up on your little chair. Jump up on your little chair, then you can jump up on my lap. Go on over here, over here, over here. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got distracted too, so help me, ask me the question again. Here, come over here.
With the energy... the Loosh harvesters, right? These frequency beings. They're not actually directly via language communicating with humans.
That's it. So when these human forms that we all occupy were originally genetically modified, they were taken away from their original tuning, like you tune a guitar. Originally, we were tuned to listen only to real God, and I'm pointing out at the window right now at the sun and the stellar network. That would be analogous to real God, okay? And we got changed, genetically modified. Jump on up, girl, jump on up. We got genetically modified to listen to something that is a smaller sub-deity at best, an ego state that some people call the demiurge. And that voice of God is not the real voice of God at all. You could even think of it as the voice of an alien invader. The voice of that which cut us off from our true divinity and then holds up a mask and says, hi, I'm God, listen to me, listen to me. So I think that some of these profoundly evil religious figures think that they're getting messages from God. I think that they might even think that they're some kind of a modern day Messiah or Jesus-like figure, a real like suffering Christ, and that they're getting personal messages telling them what to do. And they don't necessarily share this with others for fear of being labeled insane. And sometimes it might be a sense of what they need to do personally or what they need to say, or sometimes it might be a justification for what they do. Like, you're allowed to do this because you're a religious savior. And I think that there are a lot of people that walk around carrying that programming, justifying their unjustifiable actions by thinking that they are actually Jesus Christ, or that Jesus Christ actually lives inside of them, or that they are somehow bringing about again the second coming of Jesus Christ. So it's a long con. And this is no disrespect to anyone who is a Christian, who's looking for something better, who's looking to have a life of integrity. This is about how understanding the Christian religion and Christianity has been used as a software vulnerability. Like, if you want to attack a culture, if you want to invade somebody's house, what you can do is make sure to plant the seed thousands of years before you come to their front door that a great savior will come, you know, wearing a purple raincoat. And then that day that you show up, you'd be like, they sure to put on your purple raincoat so that they recognize you as your great savior. Like, that ain't the great savior. So these human beings have a human form, and they are genetically tuned, like a guitar that's been with the things twisted wrong, to something that's not divine, that tells them what to do, and that they actually think is God. They have a religious mania. They actually think what they're talking to is God. And I actually even think that it's like a computer program, that it's not even something we would call biologically alive. And that all the things that they're doing, everything from 5G to allowing chemtrails and nanotechnology to be sprayed, to the use of large hadron colliders, is all supposed to be about bringing God to Earth, which you can tell by my sarcasm that I'm not being serious at all, because their version of God is a horrible aberration, really a demon. So what they're talking about is using technology to, you know, rend the fabric of space-time and consciousness so that truly demonic things can come through the portal that they create technologically. And what they do with their own bodies is they have big giant portals through which demons can come in and act. So they are pretty much like, demons come and act through me while they are having this religious mania, thinking that it's something, that it's religious and good. That's the big emphasis here. Like, if there's one takeaway, if you're ever interacting with anyone who's infested with this type of mental software program, it's that they actually are motivated. They think they're doing something good. They might think that they're saving you or saving the world. Like, if you think about that girl who's a vegan, like a YouTube, she was a YouTuber on, she was like a radical Islam vegan, and then she shot up the YouTube headquarters. It's like, is like that level of mania, emotional reactivity, not an intellectual foundation. She didn't say, I'm going to come up with a very thoughtful premise and then base my violence upon a thoughtful premise. It was not about that at all. She was about like being programmed with various different emotional instabilities and then being taught to act on those instabilities. And that's been Judeo-Christianity for the past 5,700 years. You know, the God Jehovah says, like, you need to do this thing. And then it's like, yes, we will go kill the Canaanites, or we will go invade this place. It's like, you know, always in the name of God, which is not real God. I'm not insulting people who are trying to reach real God. I'm trying to say none of this is real God. So the people that are infested, they have a mental program that is like an overlay that sometimes makes their mouths move, or sometimes makes their arms move, or sometimes makes their facial expression move. And if you sometimes now are it's like you feel like you got the They Live sunglasses. You guys know what I'm talking about. You put on the sunglasses, everybody looks like a screwed up demon. You take off the sunglasses, they look like a shiny morning star host on drinking their coffee on Good Morning AM. That's for real. What is happening is everybody is beginning to activate their ESP, your higher dimensional perception, that allows you to see beyond mere illusions of the physicality and into energy. Who is actually energetically speaking through a physical conduit? And there can be a human being there. There is a malevolent presence, like the puppet master is the malevolent thing that is through there. And now that we are awakening our higher faculties, we can all see this and sense this. People aren't being fooled. That was that whole thing, the testimony from Peter Strzok in front of the Congress, that he's this FBI agent. He's totally demonic. And the mask was revealed. His voice was like, oh, I'm just such a good Boy Scout. I'm just so good. But his facial expressions, without even any filter, like, he looked like he had horns. He looked like he had, like, you know, steam coming out of his ears. That's what I'm talking about. You can sense the malevolent presence that is acting through the human physicality. So no, please do not get stuck in the literal to anyone who's watching this by thinking that evil beings like physically transform, like, oh, I'm going to transform, and now I look like a scaly reptile. Like, that's not what it is. And their true form is evil and malevolent. Don't get stuck in literalism. And yes, we have many of those beings that have been at the positions of leadership, but they are no longer going to be there, but they've been the ones running the show for far too long.
Yep. So you don't think there's ever going to be a time where certain individuals start seeing through the facade and they can actually see like zombie-looking creatures running around and whatnot?
I think it's totally here. I think it's not coming. I think it's here. So what is happening right now in this moment, like these weeks that we are going through, the 5G network is being turned on, and that is like artificial, I'll just go, ah, it's an artificial, ah, kind of signal. And then at the same time, there are natural signals of benevolence that are like, that are coming here too. Because I personally have been feeling this, oscillating between levels of extreme duress and feeling all of that, and then feeling moments of euphoria where it feels absolutely wonderful and feels like being bathed in love and acceptance and very peaceful, harmonious moments. So I can tell what's going on. And the moments of what is for beings like you and me, and I define you and me as we have organic bodies. We're not demonic. We're not transhumanists. We're not trying to get fluid or something like that. Like, we're multicellular beings that are in tune with the planet. When you feel the natural waves of love and consciousness that are coming from the stars and the stellar network, it feels like, oh, that feels so good. Like, oh, like I'm being given food and hugs and everything is fantastic because we're in alignment with that. Like that for beings that are not in alignment with the natural world, they don't run OS love. When that energy comes to them, they feel it as a great discomfort. So they, of course, are trying to turn up the 5G. They're like, I don't like this nice, peaceful music. It's making me feel too peaceful. I need something like psycho music. And so we're really literally having a battle. It's spiritual warfare. It's frequency warfare. It is external in terms of emissions from astronomical bodies and the 5G network. It is internal in terms of our own cellular structure versus wetware or the self-assembling nanocrapola that's inside of you. You might call it Morgellons or whatever. Each one of your cells of your own body has an amazing divine presence. Like imagine a little cell and it's like glowing, and you're filled with all of these amazing glowing cells that are like miniature little suns or stars. That's who we really are. And then we've got crapola that's on top of it. That's like from vaccines and chemtrails and pollutants and chemicals and other things that are trying to diminish our true luminosity. We are truly light beings. We are truly luminous. And all the things that I'm saying to you right now, these are thought structures. These are like software programs that if you only identify as your physical meat body, you're like, oh, I'm just the meat carcass, I'm nothing more. Like that's you're only looking at a slice of reality. You're way, way more than that. You're consciousness and energy and light. And so this is all about changing our estimation of what is real. What is real? So if you're, and others, I know someone who is really delving into breatharianism, has gone extensive periods of time, like many, many weeks, being very physically active and healthy without having to eat physical food or water. And so it's because they are running a different software program. And I know that I've mentioned this on your show before, not to be repetitive. Therese von Neumann, she was a saint or a stigmatic, not astigmatic. She had stigmas that bled on Fridays, and she didn't eat physical food for like the last 25 years of her life. Her devotion was to like a biblical Christ. I'm not saying our devotion has to be that way. The guy that I know that's doing breatharian is not part of formal dogma at all. He simply believes in being able to breathe in the physical life force energy of the world around him. And that's a type of thought structure that says you can either get physical energy through indirectly through plants and animals that we eat in a delicious sandwich, or directly right from the sun and the stars and breathing. So there's also, I want to tell everyone, it's a super loving and accommodating world. Like, I don't know what your parents were like, if they were loving or accommodating or whatever, but imagine the most ideal loving parents. That's like, there's no pressure. You get to do this at your own pace. There's no right or wrong. There's no expectations. Because a lot of people think like, oh my God, if I don't do this right, like, oh my God, I don't want to be left behind. You know, don't leave me behind. Don't leave me, go to hell. Don't, you know, like, because they think if they're going to eat the bacon that they're going to get left behind. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You get to do the internal transformation at a pace that is comfortable with no pressure. So, oh my God, so hard. Sorry about that. My thing, I'm plugged in. I want you to know I'm plugged in on my power cord, but my thing just said that I have 10%. So I'm running at a deficit. I'm using more energy than I am able to emit at the moment.
But
so,
you are plugged in, but it's dying.
I'm plugged in, but I have 10% more left.
I know how that goes. I have the when you're running too much stuff, that happens. But it's fine. If it runs out, then it runs out. But
thank you. Yeah, I'll try to get. And I think I've already been motor mouth, flapping my moving mouth parts.
It's
a
good.
lot.
That means I don't have to talk.
You're always that, but you're always very gracious about my over talking.
What other topics are going on? From my perspective, and I don't put myself into the scene, like the news scene, what the talking heads are doing and that all that stuff, but I do feel the energetics of it.
Yeah.
What everyone's doing, and to me personally, it seems like it's getting quieter and quieter and quieter. That's what it is to me. Like, as far as the normal people actually, to me, like, this conversation is something I never ever see out there. Never. There's not a hide nor hair of it anywhere. And, like, it's just everyone's quiet. Everyone's, like, life is what it is, and I'm not going to even look into it or anything. Like, that's what it seems like to me. I don't know if you're around anybody else who's actually having discussions about their reality, but generally speaking, I don't have that.
Yeah. So yeah, mostly I do not interact with the herd and the lumpen masses, as Terrence McKenna might describe them. Like most, because I'm like rainbow lasagna all the time. So I think that maybe people edit themselves out of my lives who cannot take the full force of rainbow lasagna all the time. Yeah. So yeah, mostly I have some conversations like this with, friends in real life, in-person friends. I have a lot of conversations like this with people that I'm connected to on social media. I think it's the only reason to stay connected on social media, because I think the Facebook and all of that, I think it is first, like on an energetic and an occult level, very energy sucking, attention sucking. Then on a surveillance data collection level, very disturbing, the amount of energy that, you letting people in, you letting people see your life and everything. But the good part is being able to stay connected on, like, let's say, levels of keeping each other sane, because we're in a very insane time when there might be an article that comes out from a respected news source that's total crap, and we all say, we know that this is total crap. Like, this is what's happening. And it is similar to what happened at the end of Atlantis, but I also want to affirm everyone, like, that's not going to be just a repeat of what happened back then. So back then, it was like, hey, let's invade this planet and invade these genes and make an artificial Merkaba and turn it on, and then everybody's going to, go to fake heaven, or go to heaven on a fake stairway. And that is clearly not what happened. It destabilized everything. So turning on 5G, it's kind of this similar thing where they're like, oh, we're just going to enslave everybody's mind, and then we're going to hijack the planetary ascension, blah, blah. I want everyone to know, like, rest assured, like, that is not what's going to happen. So I don't give, like, the assurances, bland assurances, like, you're a stupid idiot. No, I don't give bland assurances. I give very real information that is based in what I see and what I know. Natural life force energy, consciousness, is way more powerful than technology any day of the week. Like, if you want to have a battle, in this corner we've got love, pure consciousness, light, and photons. And in this corner we have, like, metal boxes and little tiny wires and electrons. And we're going to fight them out. And then you fight them out. Natural, not, what is the word? Like, non-synthetic, not manufactured. That is way, way more powerful than anything that is synthetic or manufactured or created. That's all, like, subset. That's not meta. That's all sub. So, yeah, rest assured. And so this is what's really happening. We are living that truth. We're like, oh, you want to bathe us with 5G insanity rays? No, I'm not going to go insane. And actually, I'm going to step up my practice more. So I always say that, that's my solution. My solution is always flying rainbow lasagna. And this is an inner practice that I do, that I teach to other people and encourage you to do. That's basically a form of genetic freedom, where, and this is big, because there are higher dimensional beings, like fifth dimension and higher, and they are outside of the time field, or they're not submerged in this level of density. And we have physical bodies. That means our light is actually condensed. It's light that's slowed down to the form of physical matter. And that does not mean that you are less powerful than a higher dimensional, less dense realm creature. If you're down here and you start to vibrate, you make waves moving through reality. Those are consciousness waves, and they're moving through the time field. So there's a huge empowerment at being here in a body and knowing that you're divine. I'm not saying I'm the only divine body. We have a lot of divine bodies down here. Not everybody knows it, so you got to know it, you got to claim it, and then emit your divine waves down here in this level of density, and that completely transforms reality. So you don't need any permission from another person, although you might need reminders or inspiration. It is not predicated on how much money you have in the bank. It's not about, I need $10 to be able to make consciousness waves vibrate. No. And I literally am a living example of that, because I'm an artist and my finances are very up and down, dependent upon, monthly sales and things like that. I do lasagna anyway, even no matter how much money I got in the bag. I'm like, time to lasagna. I do this make these waveform patterns through these emissions when I see that the world is screwed up and it needs to be rearranged. So again, it does not require permission from or assistance from something else to say, hey, come over here and rearrange the world because I don't like it, because this is stupid. Be like, no, this is stupid. I agree. I want to rearrange the world. And what we emit from this level of reality it radiates outward, quote unquote, upward towards these higher dimensional, less dense realms. And those beings up there are like, oh, look, like here's some energy that's coming from the denser realms. Like this is information. Like this is like, it's a partnership. It's not like, oh, like you're supposed to dump your problems in their lap and be like, oh, like do something. We need help. Like, no, you're supposed to like emit some music. Here, emit some music. And they're gonna be like, wait, I heard some music. I'm gonna play. And then there will be a whole symphony. It would be wonderful. So yes, I'm trying to encourage everyone that we are actually in a wonderful position to be empowered, not to be disempowered.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, I forgot that one, but anyway, like I know what I was gonna say. As far, like for me personally, as far as should I ask somebody, if this is okay for me to do such and so, like I've never found anybody that, I only find a very few people that seem intelligent enough anyway to have a conversation, and I haven't found any of them that were an actual authority. Like the ones that pretend to be authorities aren't worth for me to try and talk to, because they want to, they're the things, they're the demonic and the nasties and all that. Like I can never talk to them, so like I don't even have a thought about who should I ask permission for, because it's not even relevant. There's no one here to ask permission to do something. Like the only thing that you're gonna get permission slips for is gonna say like, go to school, get a job, go join that whole thing, and then you won't do anything whatsoever. So for me personally, there's no possibility of asking. I just do, and then I get energetic like kickback sometimes or blowback, and then I'm like, okay, the entities didn't like that one very much, so I'll retool a little bit.
Or maybe you're being a thorn in their side, and maybe it's good. Like, oh, blowback, I must have done something that pissed them off. Like, they're good fodder here. Keep digging, you know? So, yeah, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes, well, whatever. Like, I use art and music and my creative process in order to fight against them a lot. So I know that they try to make me not want to do, like, they'll try to make you be like, don't do those things that help you to fight. So whatever it is. And you'd be like, I'm going to do it anyway. So whatever is your thing. Might be like, don't, whatever. Usually it's practice or something that is good for your body and your mind and your spirit. So they're trying to prevent you from doing it or stand in front of it or whatever. And I also notice a lot of the attacks have to do with sense of self-identity, that if they can give you a diminished or distorted sense of self or definition of who and what you are, then you do not know that you are great and divine and that you have this unlimited potential. So a big part of it is it doesn't matter what external reality or voices in your head might say about your potential or your self-worth or your own divinity. you have to know, like, oh, you are good, you are divine, you are doing these good things. It's like if you're an artist or a musician and you don't get a lot of positive feedback from the rest of the world, but you're like, I know I'm good, I'm gonna keep going. Like, keep going on your practice, because you're exactly right. The demons will not encourage you and tell you you're doing a good job on your ascension, but I will. And you know something, when I'm doing my flying rainbow lasagna, I'm encouraging everyone. I'm like, go, do it. Like, imagine that we are like a herd of wild horses running across the plains, like in the west of, the United States, like running into the sunset. And I'm like, keep running, everyone, because that's what this is. We are trying to literally transform and pop into a higher dimensional state where we have all of these constraints that are being piled on top of us, like I mentioned, like Harrison Bergeron, like any of these science fiction movies where really talented, gifted people with great potential are also saddled with huge challenges, and then it's all about facing and superseding those challenges, and then moving into states of pure freedom. So, not hopium, we are literally moving into states of pure freedom. And like I said, we were supposed to do a lot of emotional healing before we got there, and we as a collective society haven't done all that healing that we're supposed to do. Don't worry, you get to go anywhere. You can heal on the fly, let's say. Like, as we go, we will do that healing.
Yeah, it has been a lot energetically. I've felt like every month is different. Like, for me, the segments the months seem to be completely different dimensions, and then even the days in between, it's just changing all the time. It's always changing. But then the outside, the sort of phenomenal plane seems to be doing the same old business as usual, like people driving in the same patterns, and all the same signs and billboards everywhere and all that, like normal just trash everywhere, is the same. But energetically, I definitely feel like that we're being pulsed here and there with both the good and the bad. I've had the horrifying, like the screaming, like pain energy come through, and I've also had the other, like, healing energy come through. And I don't know when it's happening or why or whatever, but I have to deal with it,
Yeah. I am sensing the phenomenal plane is responding to the energetic plane. And so part of it I'm sensing is in the rate of time, like the flow of time. Some days feel epic, like the morning was 1,000 years ago, or there might be some development in current events or in politics where you read about it in the morning news, and then it feels like by the time you go to bed at night, like 10,000 years have passed. Like, that's old news. That's literal history. Like, I think that might literally be because we have lived 10,000 years in that day. Or there are some tasks that I'm doing where I'm like, I'm washing the dishes. Like, this feels like an epic journey. Like, this is taking me 10,000 years. And now I've finally completed this task. It's been 45 minutes. Like, sometimes it feels like that, but sometimes it's in a good way where I might be spending all of my time doing a creative project and I'm totally immersed and like, I want to spend 10,000 years doing that.
Yeah. Another thing that happens with me particularly, and I've talked about this with other people, but if I'm getting attacked by these entities that want to keep me in a low vibratory state, what it does is it puts my mind into like a one-dimensional state where I only focus on the bad feeling, or I'm just like simmering in there or just submersed in it. But when I'm outside of it, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing as far as the external, I can be doing anything, but I'm connected multi-dimensionally to everything, right? And every single moment is just this constant
Don't do it. Sorry for the barking. We have kids playing in my neighborhood that's making my dog bark. No barking.
Shaky. Don't bark.
You know her. She listened. You said her name. Good girl.
Did she perk up or something?
She's giving us a face. She's like, I'll be good. I'll be good. She's been pretty patient the whole time.
Yeah. But for me, I find it easy to forget when I'm in the one-dimensional state that the other one exists. So I think to remember that you're always connected to the multidimensional, and it's a matter of what you're doing in the moment.
Sorry about the conversation I'm having with her. Sorry about that. She's understanding.
Who's she talking with?
She's saying that there are kids driving by on the side, and I'm like, you gotta be quiet now. Yeah, she's barking, just not as loud. So sorry to interrupt you. But what you were saying about the one-dimensional mind, I totally understand.
Yeah.
And yes, it feels like feelings attacks. Like sometimes I'm happy and well-centered and I feel like life can be a wonderful, fun adventure. And then I sometimes feel almost like a light switch, something gets switched. And I feel like, no, everything is horrible. Nothing will ever be right. These are all the things that are wrong in my life. And it can be very difficult to get back to those feelings of being calm and peaceful and centered. So some of my practices, the things that I'll do, I'll have songs that I can play that kind of remind me of like, oh, life can be cool, life can be a fun adventure, or different activities that kind of bring me more into those feelings, or like different uh, not exercises, like practices that I can do. Music is part of it, and I also have this instrument over here that I play that makes very peaceful type of amorphous music. So, and I think that that's a big part. It's frequency. Like surround yourself with good frequency. Some people do stuff with like aromatherapy, like you put on a smell that makes you feel happy, calm, and peaceful. Whatever it is, like find your thing and then use that to get back into the better feelings.
Yeah, yeah. I just I had this one period in my life where I discovered that I discovered that like the whole thing was just emotions. Like as far as if you get into a fight, and a fight is what turns into a war, and a war is what turns into nuclear war, and such and so, and that all starts from someone like getting pissed off. And like that's the root level of the manipulation happens inside of your own emotional body, where you're reacting to your own emotional state. And if the whole populace would learn that, then we wouldn't have to go to war anymore because nobody would be pissed off anymore, right?
Totally agreeing with you. And I'll go further and I'll raise you one by saying, I think that the circumstances that make the pissed offness feeling are intentional, because there's a being that's like, I want an anger sandwich. That tastes so good. These people down there are really pissed off. I think everything about our economy is set up in that way to release stress, to make there be not enough. It's like the game of musical chairs. They intentionally do not put out enough chairs for everyone, so that someone out there is always like biting their nails, like there's not going to be a chair for me, and they're like, stress sandwich, I'm going to eat that. That tastes so good. So, and I'm not saying to everyone like what the solution is that you should somehow arbitrarily feel perfectly good while you're being like poked with pitchforks. No, that's not what's happening. We need to remove the pitchforks so that you get to have natural, happy, good, calm, peaceful feelings. And so I do in my life what I can do to feel happy, calm, and peaceful, which you can see, like I paint these detailed paintings that are very meditative to do, and I put on good music that I like, and I surround myself with people and conversations and videos that are uplifting and inspiring. So I do limited amount of exposing myself to allergens, social allergens, like
Toxins.
People or ideas, or you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So try to stay sane. And that's a big part too. You don't have to proselytize. None of us. If you are going on the pathway of raising your energy and becoming more organized and more intelligent and more divine, you do not have to proselytize. I'm not saying that to you, Gary. None of us have to go out and knock on doors and say, it's time for me to red pill you. I need to tell you about the truth events of 9/11. Like, no, that might have been truthful 10 years ago or 7 years ago. We're at a different level of reality now. That's what I mean, different seasons. So it's no longer appropriate for you to try to go out and get everybody on the team. We got the team. Don't worry. We got enough players on the team. Let everybody go where they're supposed to go. Or it's like saying we got enough players in the band. Like we got a tuba player, we got a flute player, we got a drummer, we got one of everything. Don't worry. If they don't want to play with the band, they don't have to. And there's a lot of people who don't want to play with the band. And that's hard for me to accept, because my whole thing of being here, I know not everybody who watches the show knows, I'm a walk-in, so I came in through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So I'm here on a mission, not just on a pleasure cruise, right? My whole thing of being here is give people a chance. I've given people a chance for like 17 years. If you have a piano for like 17 years and you never try to play, at this point it's like, okay, like go find a different piano teacher. You're not very committed as a music student. So yeah, I like to talk with the other people who are really into self-cultivation and finding their own divinity and wanting to go in a positive direction. And it is hard for me to accept and admit that many people are into self-destruction and de-evolution, devolving, that they want to take a lot of drugs, make themselves less conscious, destroy their bodies, get old, grow sick and die. And I'm all like, no, we're not supposed to do any of those things. And they want to do those things. So I got to let them do those things and be like, do it, but see ya. Do it, but on a different timeline, in a different level of experience. Because what's eventually going to happen is the beautiful, loving, healing, rays that come to the planet that feel really good for everyone who's in alignment, then they feel horrible for everyone who's in self-destruction. The people who are in self-destruction get destroyed, and then just the good players of the band are left. And then we finally like, oh my God, finally play music because we don't have all of these interruptions making it so difficult to hear one another.
Yeah. Do you think some sort of actual purge is coming, or do you think it's more like we're going to shift dimensions and we're just not going to be around that sort of energy anymore?
I think that both things are ongoing. So in early December, I felt a big shift. I'm use my hands in order to kind of, almost like how trains shift train tracks. Mm-hmm. I felt a big reality shift. And I felt another one very recently, and a lot of other people felt it too, like in the past week or so. When I read stories and people report to me that they had sudden nausea, that is one of the symptoms of sudden shift. I call it time inertia. Just like if you're in a car and you're going around the corner and you go too fast, it's like, and you kind of like get that like kind of a little bit motion sick. I think some people are getting motion sick when they get suddenly shifted from one timeline to another timeline. So I think that new realities are being created, like new sidewalk is being paved in front of us, even as we move through time. And also you're shifting from your focus from one area to another area. So I think both things are going on. On the one hand, I don't want to freak anybody out. We are all experiencing many ongoing individual deaths. And clearly I'm not dead. I'm here, I'm talking and everything. However, I'm able to see and sense multidimensionally, oh, that version of me died. So there are many versions of many of us that are on alternate timelines that are dying. And you can think of that like when you have a tomato plant and you want to grow the main stalk. So you chop off the suckers. You chop off the little stems that are growing out the sides. Those are like, they bleed off the energy. They don't actually produce any fruit. So what we're doing is we're pruning the time field of possibilities that are not where you're really supposed to be. You focus your attention into where you're really supposed to be. And then I think what happens is we will experience a metamorphosis or a change in the basic rules of reality that not everybody can wrap their brain around that. Like not everybody can accept the idea that food is not necessary for your body and that you can ingest something else that's a finer substance. To some people that is too much. They're like, you're crazy pants. That's not true. I'm going to a different reality where everybody has to eat hamburgers. And that's fine. They can do that. The integument is what you do when you eat a hamburger, you're like, I'm eating solidified light. So that is what I do with my practice. And then I think at a certain point, we won't have to actually grind up the cow to make the hamburger. Like I made a hamburger with my mind. Like I'm a chef of the mind. And I can give it to you. You can be like, good thinking, Aurora. You really got this hamburger into existence. And then at a certain point, we won't have to use the hamburger symbol anymore. I can just give you light from my mind into your mind and be like, thank you for the meal. That tastes so good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm sending you a mental hamburger right now, Gary. I make it really good. It's got goat cheese on top and a slice of heirloom tomato and some good Himalayan salt. And I fried it in bacon.
What kind of bread?
I saved the bacon fat from the breakfast that I mentally made for you.
Is it Dutch Crunch?
Yeah, really good.
Thank you.
I'm a good mental chef.
I haven't had a hamburger in a long time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be tempting you.
No, it's fine. Yeah, and the weather also has been... I've noticed the weather it's been cleaner for me. Like, I used to notice pollution all the time, and somehow with all the crazy clouds and everything, it's been cooler and cleaner and more flowing, not as stagnant.
I have positive reports on weather too. So we're both in California. You're more like middle California, and I'm Southern California, just outside of LA. Mm-hmm. And so I've lived here for like a year and a half or so. And when I've lived here, everyone is saying, like, Aurora, there's a terrible drought here. It's becoming desertificated, like desert made into it's like there's been no rain here for 5 years. And when I used to live in Northern California, even further north than where you are, I would watch the weather and I would see the patterns that if this is the Pacific coast, I have paint on my hand, that's what that is. If you have the Pacific coast over here, then there would always be like this blockade of high pressure that would not allow the storms and the moisture to actually come on shore. And the high pressure, it was always created artificially. It's created through, aerosols and various different high-flying craft through our atmosphere. So artificially created high-pressure systems. And in December, I noticed that we started to get storms coming ashore, and we had some small rainstorms, and everyone here celebrated because that's like a huge victory. It's like we're actually getting rain because there's been no rain here for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then now we got more rain, and which is totally doing great for our for our context. And now we're supposed to have literally like a week of rain. It's going to affect us and all up and down the entire state of California. So not false hope. Chemtrails still exist. Nano crapola still exists. Like I'm seeing a lot of crazy, inexplicable clouds and other unnatural weather patterns. However, the drought pattern over California and the southwest and western half of the United States seems to be breaking. So that's at least one positive thing. And I think it is related to the ending of functionality of the geothermal plant that is on the largest island of Hawaii. Because when I used to watch the weather radar, I always used to see if this over here where my finger is the largest island of Hawaii, and this is coast of California, there would always be this plume that started from there and went like a fire hose up to California. And that's because the geothermal plant had like these horizontal spinning fans that could send giant plumes of moisture-laden air upward and kind of be like the raw material that they could then send across for these targeted storms. That was maybe 2 years ago. That was along. Now they had the lava flows that went over that geothermal plant, so they can't send those plumes up anymore. So now I'm watching where all the storms are coming. They're coming from way north of Hawaii. They're coming from south of Hawaii. So something has changed in the overall rhythm of where storms are going. I don't want to fool you. Weather manipulation still exists and still is real. However, something has happened and changed and transformed in a positive way. So even though we might get mudslides, like we're about to have a week's worth of rain, we might get a lot that is an inundation. So be careful and don't be stupid. This is actually hugely helpful because it's going to go into the groundwater and like restabilize the tectonic plates, and everything was sinking because they were taking all the groundwater out. Like all of this water is actually really good, and there's a giant snowpack in the Sierras too. That means that we'll have water going into the summertime and everything. Like this is actually hugely good news for everyone that lives in this area.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain here as well over the past month, I would say.
Yeah.
And San Francisco has like a 2-week winter or something. It's not long. So it's definitely been it's been different, been better. Cheeky's being cheeky.
She is, and she's been pretty patient through the whole interview. So I'm just giving her a little bit of reassurance. Thank you for allowing that. Thank you for understanding. Yeah.
Good. I think we're probably coming close to. I'm pretty sure we're over an hour. But do you want to have any like closing thoughts, or as far as a collective, what people ought to be doing? Because I know people still feel isolated and estranged from, the herd and whatnot. Yeah. Do you have any closing remarks for people who feel left out?
Very big. When I am in those agitated states, what I do in order to get out of them is refocus on the things that give me joy. So there are different activities, like if it's art making or music listening or dog walking or playing with, I go into the things. So when I read political articles, then I feel my joy melting away. So although I am politically informed, I don't want people to become stupid, uninformed, ignorant idiots. I really am saying I feel like we've done all the hard work. We did all of the we're going to get political justice. I think that our justice is not going to come through a political aqueduct. I think that our justice is going to bubble up internally as an end result of our metamorphosis process. So I'm encouraging everyone to focus on your inner metamorphosis. And that it can feel lonely and isolated because sometimes I just need to do me. Sometimes I don't need to do anybody else's life challenges, emotional PTSD, or what they need. And sometimes that's appropriate to be like, close the bubble, just do your own stuff and focus on what you need. And then when you resolve, when you're like, I figured everything out, I purged all the stuff I didn't need, and now I'm restructured and I'm totally ready, then bust on out and go and inspire other people and share your ideas and share your goodness. But then you might also need to oscillate back into, isolation. Like, I think that it's not, babies develop in a womb for a reason, so that they can have quiet, peace, privacy, like artists work in a studio for a reason. It's like, don't bother me, I'm doing stuff. And I think right now we have to be that way with our own lives. We are gestating our own lives. So don't be afraid to be like, I'm doing my own thing. And also your gestation, it doesn't come from like, you're allowed to do it because of your family or your money or your politics or your government. Like you do it because of your humanness. And when I say human, I don't mean like small, sinful, broken, pathetic animal. I mean humanness, like your superness, your divinity. That we are all stepping into our real divinity, and it doesn't mean that you say God isn't real. It means you say God is real. God is me. Like that's it. I'm not proselytizing to you guys here at all. I'm saying like that's the last page of the book. When you get to the end of the book, it says, "Oh, and by the way, you're God."
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Right. But in the sense, not in the sense where it's a higher or lower. It's a natural, miraculous thing that is normal. I think that's hard for a lot of people to think about. But all of life is miraculous. All of it. It's impossible to even understand or comprehend. Like you are it.
And I'm not saying the apotheosis, like the Luciferians say, where you're exalting the ego as if it is God. That's not what I am saying. Just being really clear there. It's about the recognition that when we reach that full potential, we become these divine beings, and we're not praying to some external authority figure or some external religious figure to give us permission. And that becomes very big, because then if you say, well, I'm the embodiment of God, if we are the embodiment of God here, then we can't let certain things happen. It's not like God has abandoned this world, it's that we haven't stepped into our power. So in terms of making sure that there's resources, making sure that there is not pollution, making sure that we do all these things that need to be done, it's our job. It's not fair to outsource that. Like we need to claim that and do it.
Personal responsibility.
Completely.
That's what it is.
And it can be fun. Like this sounds like I'm like a huge taskmaster. Like children, we need to do blah blah blah. Like no, I'm totally moving into joy. Moving into joy. Whatever we need to do it joyfully. So the other day I had to do a few tasks at the business center, and I went around town and everything. And I was with Cheeky, and we made everything fun. And every store that we went into, the people were having fun. Like they're like playing on instruments or like having some. And that's it. Like if you have to do regular work and you have to go to the computer center and compute, do it, but playing Led Zeppelin. Like, you can have fun while you do these things.
Yeah. Same thing with me when I'm driving. Like, I can engage the passenger and find out about them. Or we can both sit and, like, stare at nothing. Or I stare out and they stare at their phone. Like, in every situation, you can either make it vibrant or you can just fall asleep.
Yes. Completely. Go towards the lucid dream. Don't go towards the zombiehood.
Right. We don't want that. Well, I'm glad we got this thing going. That was a bit difficult at the beginning, but
I am too. I know it was a rocky road, and I said we both put forth noble and heroic efforts to maintain the energy, not get torn off track, and do it anyway in a different way.
Yes.
And the fact my battery stayed charged enough just to get this done. Like, let's take that as a sign from the cosmos. We'll all have just enough, just in time.
Just enough, just in time. You don't need more than you need, right?
Exactly.
We're not hoarding.
And if we're gonna transcend, it doesn't matter how many cups of coffee I've left in the cupboard, right?
Good to talk to you again, Aurora. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for inviting me. It's always wonderful to talk with you. Happy, healthy New Year. Keep on keeping on.
Yes. Peace. See you next time, okay?
Thank you. Next time.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too.